So for the room type, you really need to have a room that has a lot of tables on it. Remember, these kids are going to be coming in with computers and 3-ring binders. They take up a lot of room. They're going to have a lot of charts and graphs and image sets that they want to spread out, as well as the question sets. And you want them to be really, really comfortable. So make sure that you have an adequate space for them to work comfortably. If you have no outlets, let everybody know well before the event so that they can have their computers on a full charge and they don't run out of charge on their computer. That would not be good for them. If there are cords or electrical outlets, that's also good to have too. And you need helpers. You cannot run this event by yourself. You need 2 or 3 helpers. Of course, this all depends upon, is this a regional or an invitational or a state, and how many teams are coming. However, you need someone to help you. You have to distribute them. You have to collect them. Remember, this is a 50-minute event, pretty much. So you do not want to interfere with any other event. So you need to start them on time, and you need to let them out exactly on time, so that they're not late for their next events. So you also need people to, if you start scoring, if you have more than one section and you start scoring the first group during the second group, you need someone to keep an eye out if somebody's going to ask a question so that you can immediately answer that question and not let them wait. You need to do everything you can do to keep the teams happy because they're stressed enough just taking the event. So you need to attend their needs in a timely manner as possible. And then, of course, you need help for scoring also. Sometimes people have tried to do this event with a PowerPoint presentation, putting them through a series of questions with so many minutes per slide per question. If you use any kind of technology in your event, make sure well beforehand that all of the technology is working really well with a plan B, C, and D, because if something happens at the beginning of the event, you're using technology, it doesn't work. Those students have spent all that time preparing, and now they can't have an event. So, and always, even if you're not using technology, you need to be in your room at least an hour before it starts if you're not familiar with the venue, because you want to make sure that sometimes you think you're getting tables, but you come in, it's all individual seats with a little armchair. And if that happens, you're going to have to rearrange everything to make it more convenient for the teams to work together. So you have to, number one, it takes a long time to construct these events. It does take a long time because these are not rote memorization kinds of events. They are 2 and 3 step problem solving. There is a lot of interpretation and analysis that goes on. They're using several different images and charts and graphs as they're moving along. So it takes a long time to put that event together. And then you have to go through and make sure the numbering's correct, that the numbering on the answer sheets is exact as the numbering on the question sheets. I know all these things because I've made all these mistakes, every single one that I'm telling you about. So, it takes a while. But we go over and over and over to make sure that every single thing matches with the answer key, the answer sheets, the test itself, and the image set. If you look at copies of previous events that are posted on 2 different websites, that will show you what the numbering system is and the format for the ones that we have put together. And you should always have extra. At Nationals, we have 60 teams, but I always bring 67 copies of the event. We turn one in after the event is over, a clean copy to Nationals. We give one to all of the scorers and the proctors. If you have people that are knowledgeable about astronomy for assistance, that is outstanding. And it's good to go over with them so they have an idea of what is in the event and what the responses are themselves, especially those that are going to be helping you correct them. So to organize your content, if you go on to the National Science Olympiad website, It has a lot of rules, clarifications, and study information for the students. And some of that information would really be very helpful for you in constructing the event, is to look and see what the teams themselves are reading for information. And you really need to, and I know this doesn't happen all the time, and it's a serious disservice to the teams that spend all their time preparing. They have read that event description. They have spent all their time preparing so they'll be knowledgeable about that event description and those deep sky objects. And so when you construct your event, you need to reflect that content in the event that you construct. It needs to cover almost all of the content that's written in that event description. If you come in and talk about the exoplanets and nothing about stellar evolution, then you've done a serious disservice, because the students have prepared for the entire thing and you're only testing them on one small part of it. That does not give them the chance to see how well they've done overall, to know what they need to prepare for even more if they are the team moving on to national competition. Also, for the resources, if you don't allow your students to have a laptop during your regional or state competition, then you're doing your teams a disservice, because everybody else going to national competition has been utilizing those resources specifically that are allowed in the event description to prepare for the competition. And that takes an edge away from them, I think. So you need to develop the questions also that are easy to grade, of course, objective questions. Some short answer is fine. Longer ones are okay as long as they're not subjective. You do not want to get into longer answers that are going to take longer for students to answer. And, you know, if you've got a lot of like little short essay questions, then that really does not allow you to cover very much of the content. And it will not be a very thorough event for student comprehension. So stay away from those, and a lot of times you can get into trouble because it takes you too long to score. And depending upon your venue and where you are in the schedule, you have to get those events scored, and all scored, tiebreakers done, and to the event scoring supervisors in time for the award ceremony. So it's a little bit of a hustle sometimes if you're scheduled during the last part of the day. Tiebreakers should always be predetermined before the event takes place, assigning different weights to different questions. Weighting all questions in a tie-breaking order ensures that you will very rapidly and easily break every single tie. So when you write these questions using this particular content that's in the event description, remember, we don't want rote memorization. They're bringing these resources with them. They've taken a long time putting these resources together, but while they've been doing that, they've been getting more and more understanding of stellar evolution and how and the formation of exoplanets. So you want to ask them questions to show this understanding. The majority of the questions need to use, for instance, a question would use, they have to identify a deep sky object on the image set, connect it with a light curve that's a totally different image, and ask a mathematical question where they have to put together understanding to answer the question. 2- and 3-step problems that require both identification and interpretation skills.